Hey friend, this is the Traveling Wellnesspreneur podcast, and I'm your host, Allie Temple. I travel full-time running my dream wellness biz from the tropics, and I want to share with you how you can create a lifestyle of freedom and purpose too. Stay tuned for inspiring and fun conversations that will empower you to take action towards your dream lifestyle of travel and freedom. Let's get into it. We are. I am so excited to be sharing my first episode with you of the Traveling Wellnesspreneur podcast. Thank you so much for being here with me. And I'm going to just start out by setting the stage a little bit for you. So I am currently coming to you from the closet in the spare bedroom in my apartment rental in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. And there were so many reasons why I could have delayed this podcast and not started because I didn't feel ready. But here I am. My husband has the proper microphone and he's not with me right now. I'm here in the spare bedroom, sitting in the closet. Absolutely no professional podcast studio, to say the least. I have a friend coming in tomorrow who will be taking back the spare bedroom. And all this to say that if you are someone who has a vision, who has a dream, maybe it's about starting to travel full-time or build your business or whatever it is, this podcast is not about being perfect, and it's really about sharing a glimpse of what it really is like on the road and having conversations that both inspire you and inform you of the less than glamorous moments as well. So just take inspired action, put something into motion, and go for it, and do not seek perfection because there's no such thing. And that's exactly what I'm doing with you today. So if you are hesitating on taking action, let this be your inspiration to just go for it. Enjoy the journey alongside with me. So much like my beginning here with this new podcast, when I started traveling and building my business, I was definitely not perfecting anything. I just had a dream, I had a vision, and I went for it. Part of that process, especially in the first year, brought me through some pretty ridiculous situations, and I laugh about it now, and I hope that you will too. But today I want to share a little bit of my experience in Bali in 2021 and some of the challenges that I've faced as a pretty new full-time traveler, kind of the reality versus expectation situation. So before I get into that story, I do have a very exciting announcement that if you follow me on Instagram, you may have been hearing me tease a little bit about this over the last week or so. I have been working behind the scenes to prepare something really special and really exciting, and I wanted to take this opportunity today on this podcast to officially announce my next yoga retreat. And this is one that I know so many of you who are in my community already have been waiting for and asking for. Here it is. I am so thrilled to let you know that we are going to Ubud Bali in June 2024. This will be my first retreat in Bali, and I wanted to share it with you here just to really let you know how excited I am to be offering this experience with you. I'm actually partnering with my friends at Trip, and the experience that we are cultivating together is really going to be like your bucket list, eat, pray, love, dream of a Bali retreat. And some of the things we have planned on the agenda are things that I can't wait to do with you and share with you. We are going to be attending a Balinese offerings workshop, going to the Holy Water Spring Temple, a sound healing session, visiting the rice terraces, sunset drinks overlooking the jungle, a purity cleanse, an herbal garden walk. We're going to be learning how to make the local Jamu herbal medicine, and of course, a daily yoga workshop or session at the famous yoga barn in Ubud, Bali. and so much more. So if you want to learn more about this incredible retreat, it's happening June 10th to 16th, 2024. Just check out the show notes. The link will be there, or you can message me on Instagram and ask me any questions that you have. Now, I do know that the first 8 people to book this retreat will be getting a discount, so you don't want to delay now that the retreat is open to the public. I believe we do already have 1 or 2 bookings. So that is the exciting news that I've been waiting to share with you. I cannot wait to get back to Bali and offer this experience. Now, of course, Bali is kind of the theme of this whole episode, and as incredible as I anticipate the retreat experience to be, sometimes things don't always go as you expect when you are traveling. And this really takes me back to a little story that I wanted to share with you today, just to show that when you choose a lifestyle of travel, especially as an entrepreneur, which is a whole other can of worms, as you know, things can get messy and you have to really be flexible. So let me share a little bit of backstory before I get into this story about Bali in 2021. I had started traveling full-time towards the end of 2020 and spent the first 5 or 6 months in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, which is actually where I am right now. And one of the reasons, firstly, why I stayed there for that long of an amount of time, it was only supposed to be a couple of months, if that, and why I'm here right now is that I have found this town in particular in Mexico to be just a really easy, simple place to live, to work remotely as a foreigner. I love it here. It's easy. It's breezy. It's probably been the easiest place that I've been to in the few years that I've been doing this. So coming from 5 months of easy breezy in Mexico, my husband and I decided to go to Bali. We had been to Bali previously for part of our honeymoon in 2019. So that was about 2 years beforehand. And of course, we all know that times were different in 2019. Now, this was 2021. And as you can imagine, you remember what 2021 was like. It differed wherever you were in the country and at what point. But anyway, I just bring that up. So our plan was, let's get to Bali and set ourselves up and live the dream. And we'll get a gorgeous villa. We've got friends in Bali. We've been here before. It's magical. It's all going to be waterfalls and sunsets and magic, right? So we get to Bali, and one of the first things that I learned when we arrived was really not to take things for granted when they are easy. So coming from Mexico, where we were comfortable, we get to this new country. Things were not so easy. And just after a couple of days of being there, one of the first things I remember happening, my husband and I went to one of the local bank machines, the ATM, to take some cash out for spending money. We were looking for a place to stay. We were just starting to get set up. It was the first couple of days. And I decided to put the American Express card into the bank machine. I thought I had seen an image of an American Express, so I thought they would take it. No, it just ate our card and did not give it back. And that was really our one card that we were using for pretty much everything at that point, which I don't advise. So that was one of the first things that happened. Needless to say, I do suggest that you do a little bit more planning ahead before entering a new country. And we have a much better setup now with our banking. We use Wise, and I highly recommend that. You can message me on Instagram if you want to learn more about that. But we ended up with our first couple of days having no money and no way to get money. We tried to contact the bank to see if we could get our card back, and it was just not an option. So then, after a couple of days, we had a little bit of time to start looking for a villa, and we found one for short term, and it was lovely. What happened was, the island shut down and went into lockdown. Most of us have experienced that somewhere in the world at some point. I don't need to paint that picture for you, but we were in this short-term villa. I don't know if you've been to Bali or if you've heard about these villas. They look so beautiful and like such a great experience when you're on the outside, but when you're experiencing them. So the kind of general Balinese villa that's very common, especially for foreigners, is it's a very simple villa where the kitchen is outdoors, the living space is outdoors, there's a pool. That's all lovely, right? Beautiful, being in nature. And then the only part of the villa that's actually enclosed is the bedroom. So we had a 2-bedroom villa. Only the 2 bedrooms separately with the bathrooms were enclosed. Actually, I think the bathrooms were open as well because that's usually the vibe too. So we get into lockdown and we are in this villa. Of course, within a couple of days, we both come down with a sickness. You know what? And so we're stuck in this villa. We have no money to order groceries because our card has been eaten from the bank machine, and we both have the flu. Now we're in this beautiful villa where if you've spent any time in the tropics before, you probably know that you don't really want to be outside at dusk or at dawn because the mosquitoes have a feast. And I'm one of those people that they love. I don't love them back. So not only were we very flu-y, not feeling well, but being stuck outside in the heat, spending all of our time outdoors, other than if we were in bed and not having an indoor living space or kitchen. So it was less than comfortable for that first few weeks, let me tell you. Now, another thing that happened over this few weeks, this period of time, we were planning to be in Bali. We were there for about 6 months. So I'm still just talking about the first couple of weeks. I like to think of it as an initiation period. So if you've been to Bali before, I think you might have experienced something like this. Let me know. But the island has a way of kind of toughing you up a little bit, like testing you to see if, one, you really want to stay, and two, if you can hack it. So another thing I had planned at that time, because I figured we'll get to Bali and everything will fall into place, I felt that way about my business as well. So I had just started working with a wonderful business coach, and we had planned my first 7-day challenge that I was offering live for yoga teachers. And this 7-day, it was a mindset chakra challenge. This was a brand new offering that I really didn't give myself any time or energy to promote properly. But here I was, stuck in my outdoor Balinese villa while being quite sick, too stubborn to cancel this live 7-day video mindset challenge. I had one person sign up, and again, I felt like I didn't want to do that one person a disservice, and I went ahead and ran this challenge while I had the flu, stuck in my outdoor villa, never having run this challenge before to just one person. Obviously, times have taught us you need to be super flexible and open-minded when you travel. But if you are not feeling your best, you also need to set boundaries, and it's okay to cancel things when things have not turned out the way that you expected them to, or if you're just not feeling well. This is a piece of advice that I could have used back then. So I struggled through this 7-day challenge and kept going with it, kept showing up every morning, first thing in the morning, while I was not feeling well for that one person, and made it through. And eventually, things came together. We started to feel better. A few weeks later, we stayed in the villa. The lockdown eventually lifted, and we had this very unique perspective and experience for the rest of the time that my husband and I were in Bali during that one trip, where because the island was still pretty much closed to foreigners, it was so quiet. And we had a lot of really special moments connecting with the locals, being able to show up and give back where we could, and just seeing the appreciation of just the smallest things and being able to try and keep the economy going, because if you've been to Bali, you know that it's, for the most part, an economy that relies on tourism. So having been some of the only foreigners on the island at that time, it was a gift to be able to offer what we could and support some of the locals in the ways that we were able to. Now, this experience in a whole, of course, taught me, if I didn't already know, to really let go of expectations. If you've traveled at all before, you already know that things will not go perfectly. And I think that the more you travel, the more opportunity you are going to have for challenges to arise. But this is also a chance for you to become more resilient, more adaptive, to really grow throughout the journey. And even though in the moment some of those things feel like a big deal and really tough to get through, it makes us stronger. We know this. There is really never a dull moment when you are traveling, especially when you are traveling and building your business at the same time. The challenges really do help you appreciate those special moments, whether you are traveling, whether you are building your business, or really whether you are just living your life. So when you're able to look back and laugh at those moments that did not exactly go to plan, I invite you to do that, because I have had many of those moments over the last few years, and this is just a small snippet of my experience in Bali in 2021. Now, I'd love to hear from you as well if you can relate to this story. I know many of you who are already traveling or have done some traveling in the past have similar stories to this. If you have not already joined us in the Traveling Wellnesspreneurs Facebook group, join that, check out the show notes for the link, and come into the community, because we're building and growing and fostering this community of heart-centered entrepreneurs who share a love of travel. Because one thing that I've found in the last few years that has been one of the biggest challenges is not always having the community connection when you're constantly on the road. So let's build that together in the Facebook group. I would love to connect with you in there and keep this conversation going. And of course, check out the show notes to learn more about my upcoming Bali retreat. I can promise you that I will do my best to make this an incredible experience for all of us. And I don't mean to scare you away from my little story from 2021. Spoiler alert, I have been back to Bali since, and I had an incredible time. It's a place that you almost can't even put into words. It's really more a feeling that you get when you're there. So let's just leave it at this. When you choose to begin traveling, be sure to let go of your expectations, be flexible, be adaptable, and be open to things working out differently than you thought they would. The moments that you'll experience will make it so worth it in the end. I'll see you in the Facebook group, and until next week, travel well. That's it for now. Thanks so much for joining me, and until next time, let's stay connected. Follow me on Instagram at Ali Temple Yoga. Join us in the Traveling Wellnesspreneurs Facebook group. And if you enjoyed this episode, please take a minute to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. See you next time.